So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this story that I've seen on the Instagrams. And it says Florida woman, 78 years old, sentenced to 1 year for killing terminally ill husband. When I first saw this story, I was like, okay, I get it. You know, like a assisted suicide that they do in hospitals, not everywhere, but that is a thing. They will have the nurses do them. I was like, okay, I understand. But then when I started reading it, I said, oh, come on now. Come on, Ellen. You know you weren't supposed to do that. Okay. So let's go and let's read this little bit that's on the side and I'm going to give my thoughts. Oh, and there's a video attached as well. So let's read it first and then we'll look at the video. So it says 78-year-old woman who had a pact with her terminally ill husband to kill herself after taking his life has been sentenced to prison. So like a murder suicide, but it was like an assisted suicide kind of thing. The judge sentenced Ellen Gillen to 366 days in prison, okay, including 42 days served, as well as 12 years of probation. Gillen shot her husband, Jerry, who is 77 years old, at Advent Health Daytona Beach Hospital in 2023. She claimed they had a pact for her to off herself after taking his life, but she could not follow through with it. All right. And it said that she also fired shots at hospital staff and police. She was then arrested after several hours standoff with police. Okay. Yeah. What this person said, we're going to look at the comments later. It says, I was like, oh, leave her alone. But then I read the rest like, okay. Because you're shooting at the staff. So not only did you do that, which technically is a crime. Okay. You were supposed to follow through with it too. Okay. But you didn't do your part. And then you got the gun and started shooting at other just hospital personnel. Now you know you ain't supposed to do that. Okay. But let's go ahead and look at this video that is a part of said post.
Land was escorted out of the courtroom in handcuffs after she pleaded no contest for the death of her husband. Back in 2023, officers say that she shot her husband at a Daytona Beach hospital while he was being treated. She says it was what he wanted.
I pulled it away and asked him if he was sure. He raised his hand and placed it on my arm and pushed the gun to his head.
Now, the judge did accept part of Galan's testimony, but ultimately sentenced her because of the trauma that the police and hospital staff suffered following the shooting.
Yes. Okay. And then they have an image of the two together. Yeah. So that's the thing. When you think of stories like this, yes, you have some people who become either terminally ill, they're in hospice, whatever the case may be. And it's unfortunate, but they get to a point where they're like, I no longer want to continue. So you could sympathize in that regard, but then y'all had a pact, which if that's what it was, then that's what it is. Okay, it just is what it is. But you had a pact, and then you didn't follow through with your part, but you're okay with following through with his. But you didn't follow through with yours, and then you just decided, okay, well now let's just go ahead of a freaking standoff with police officers and hospital staff. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot you guys. Or shoot at you. Now, some people were saying, and we're going to go and look at these comments, but some people were saying like, oh, well, if it was a black person, only a year. It's also because of the age. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is a crazy scenario that's taking place, but it's also because of the age as well. I mean, she's 78 years old, and he was 77. So, but let's go ahead and look at some of these comments. It said white privilege is top tier. Now she went through his phone. That's why she did. Oh no. Okay. So she shot up the hospital and killed her husband and only got a year. Yeah, something's wrong here. And like I said, it's because of the age. Now, maybe there's other cases of black people where they're around the same age, commit a crime, and get something more. But usually I would assume anyways. The judge was probably like, okay, yeah. I keep wanting to call her Gertrude. Her name is not Gertrude. Her name is Ellen. But I keep want to say, like, come on, Ellen, girl. Okay, what you did wasn't right. You're gonna get jail time because you're not supposed to do this. However, okay, you are 78, so now Will she last for the duration of this? I don't know. Okay, but I could see why they did it like that. Okay, it says make that be a black grandma. This would be a completely different story. Yeah, I agree. Now, why'd you do that? Okay, yeah, I agree. White privilege, a black granny would have gotten 30 years minimum. Shot at the staff, police, and killed husband, and got 1 year. Yeah, but I could see why she only got it. Part of it is yes because of her race, but the other part is because the age. I could see why. Who's her legal team? Like, what's going on? Maybe I need to get some of this if I have legal issues, legal troubles. Shooting at hospital staff and police, but got only 1 year. So I just thought this was actually quite interesting because I mean, you have heard of the assisted suicides. So that's why I was like, I don't know if it's because of that too, because they did have a pact and the judge is probably like, well, yeah, and it could be some bias as well, of course, but the judge was probably like, yeah, I see, I see why you did it. I understand it. But let me know what y'all think about this down below.